Welcome. Today I'm going to talk about a couple steps for your first-time home buyers. And even if this isn't your first home that you're buying, hopefully you're able to learn a few things. I'm going to go through every step, and if you want to go more in depth, I have a much longer article that you can go through and read that kind of delves into all of these steps. But this is just going to be a quick down and dirty 8 steps of what you need to know for your first home purchase. The first step that you're going to want to figure out is just what you want in a house. Obviously your price range is going to be the biggest thing. However, I always tell people figure out what their monthly payment is going to be rather than a price that they're looking for. When you look at any of the major home finding websites, a lot of times they'll give you an estimated price on it, and unfortunately some people will think a $300,000 house is going to cost $1,200 a month, and that's just not true unless you don't have to pay property taxes. But because Texas property taxes are so high, normally those sites will use a national average, and so you're going to have an inflated view of what you can buy, and that's going to make comparing houses that are in your actual range really difficult once you're cutting that price range in half or something. So the next thing that you're going to want to figure out will be the beds, baths, square footage that you want. Square footage is usually the most difficult part, so a lot of times that's something that we'll figure out in just the home showing process, kind of finding what feels too big or too small for you. Figure out your location, and the biggest thing really is just going to be note what your must-haves are and things that would just be really nice in your house. You're going to have a couple non-negotiable things, but realize that not every house is going to be perfect unless you're building your own custom house, which that range can vary significantly. So note a couple things that you're not willing to negotiate on that you have to have in this property, and then a couple things that, like, if we can find it, great. All right, the second step, that there's some debate on this. I always say that the second step should be to find a realtor. Most people will say get your pre-approval first. The reason that I say you want to talk to a realtor even before that process is, frankly, a lot of people don't know about lenders. They don't know that there is some negotiation in there, and every lender is different. It's not just, oh, the government's going to back this loan, so I'm going to get the same rate, the same closing costs, so on and so forth. So your realtors are going to know some local lenders that they can recommend, and probably know a little bit about other local programs that you may be interested in as well. So it's just helpful to be able to talk to them first and kind of get a feel for loan type or other kinds of advantages that you can take it when you're looking for your lender. Don't be afraid to talk to more than one realtor either. Once you figure out who you're going to work with, definitely you're going to want to sign a representation agreement with that specific realtor, but talk to a few. There's some statistic about 75% or so people just work with the first realtor that they ever meet, and unfortunately it's really difficult to get a feel for the realtor that you're going to work with before you've had a couple conversations with other agents. So don't be afraid to kind of figure out who's going to be the best fit for you. Your third step is going to be getting that actual pre-approval. Like I said, ask your realtor for recommendations. Again, those are recommendations. Don't go specifically because your realtor mentioned that, but you should go through and you should be getting the par rate, like golf. That's going to be their rate before buying points down. So some lenders will give you, oh, you can get down to this rate, but what they don't tell you is that you're going to have to pay an additional amount in order to get down to that rate. And that's not what people are looking for a lot of the times, because the second part will be if you can get a closing cost estimate. A lot of lenders are going to give you just a very rough estimate. Sometimes they'll do a low rate, which is the other reason that you kind of just want to look into your par rate. And then again, your realtors probably have a good estimate based on the lenders that they've worked with quite a bit. Just like with your realtor, make sure that you're checking with a couple of different lenders. Like I said, don't go with the first one that your realtor recommends. Typically, I will recommend 2 lenders for whatever specific loan type and ask my clients to find one on their own and compare all 3 and choose from that. All right, your fourth step is going to be to actually find the home. Make sure that you're not making an impulsive decision on this. This is probably going to be the biggest purchase of your life. In slower markets, I recommend always taking a day before you actually put your offer in. Obviously, that's not always feasible in a hot market, but typically you'll get at least a chance to submit a highest and best offer even when you've got multiple offer situations. The fifth part of this is going to be to have your agent actually put an offer in for you. this is where you're going to use and abuse your agent, all right? If you have any questions on your contracts whatsoever, don't hesitate to ask. Have them explain every step of that process to you and every paragraph in that contract. Seriously, make sure that you understand the entire thing that you're signing. A lot of people are just going to initial down and digitally sign because you can do this all on the computer. Don't make that mistake. Make sure that you're having your agent explain things to you. That's not only going to show their competency, but it's going to make sure that you understand how the rest of this contract's going to go, as well as amendments and any other documents that you may have to put in there. And then if you so happen to need to back out of your contract, that will detail all of the ways that you're able to terminate the contract and not lose your entire earnest money or, your timeline for your inspections, things like that. So you put your offer in, it was accepted, you're under contract now. The next piece is going to be to get your home inspector. They're going to come and they're going to search high and low. Your realtor can do some initial checks. You can maybe see a couple things when you first go through the house, but the home inspector is who you're going to want to rely on to really dig deep into any potential issues that you could see in your house. Note that they're not specialists, so they can give you a recommendation on your foundation or your roof or things like that, but definitely if there are major repairs to be done, get somebody that is a specialist in that field. The home inspector is just giving you a broad view of what you're going to need to fix. With that, you should be doing that within your option period. Again, that goes into explaining the contract, so we can talk about the option period in another video. But during that time is when you're going to want to have your inspector come through. You'll do your repair amendments, execute those, decide what the seller's going to fix, what you're going to fix, so on and so forth. And once you've come to an agreement with the seller about what kind of repairs are going to be done prior to closing, and you have your estimates as to what kind of things you're going to have to do once you actually get into the house, you'll finish your option period out, and typically that's where I'll order the appraisal. I'll have the lender order the appraisal rather. Sometimes we can order that earlier, especially if your inspection just shows a couple minor things, and if they get fixed or not is not going to stop you from actually buying the house. Then we'll order the appraisal earlier, especially in hot markets where we've got a shortage of appraisers and we need them to get through. Your next step will be actually going through and getting the rest of the documents to your lender. Throughout this process, honestly, once you get the contract executed, you should have been getting documents over to the lenders and they should start preparing everything. Big thing that we're going to wait on is that appraiser actually getting in there. That's unfortunately a separate third party that pretty much nobody has any control over. They're going to do their things and you don't want to push them because that could blow up an entire deal. But make sure that you're getting any documents the lender requests to you on time. And if you have questions, feel free to ask them. Feel free to ask your agent. A lot of the stuff they'll probably defer you to the lender still, but the lender is going to be your best source for any information on your actual loan docs. And finally, once your loan is processed, the appraisal has come in clean, everything's agreed upon, you'll get your closing documents and we'll go to the closing table at the title company, sign, and the house is yours. A lot of people think that the closing table is where your relationship ends with your agent. Absolutely not. Make sure that you're keeping in contact with me. If you want some of my mailers that I'm doing recipes on, or you want to keep checking out the videos, feel free. I want to continue having a relationship with all of my clients. I am your resource for anything home related, not just buying and selling. If you need help with your taxes, they come in just an insane amount for your house, or you need help with your homestead exemption, anything like that, any repairs and stuff, I have vendors all around that I can recommend you. So definitely just make sure that you're keeping in contact with your agent. Their job does not end at the closing of your house, so don't feel like you're going to be bothering them by sending them a text every once in a while checking in. I hope that was helpful to you. If you have any other questions, feel free to hit me up, send me a message on Facebook, send a comment through YouTube, or you can even check out my full-length article. It's going to go a lot more into each of the steps. So I'll leave that in the link below. As always, like, subscribe, follow my pages. Be sure to tune in next week. We're going to do a video on a Central Texas location of interest, so be sure to check that one out. And then at the end of this month, we'll throw something out about a market update as well, just so that you can keep up to date with, how everything's going, how COVID's affecting the real estate market, and whatever else. But all right, you have a good one.